Dick Fleming. During the Vietnam War, I was a member of 1st Force Recon, a recon battalion. On this channel, I tell my stories of my time in the Marine Corps, my time in Vietnam. I also wrote about them in a book called Chasing Charlie, entitled Chasing Charlie, the Force Recon Marine in Vietnam, and that's available on Amazon. We also have a website, firstforcerecon.com, that has links to additional resources and photographs, and in some cases augment my stories, and you can see better what I'm talking about on some of those photographs. Some of them which have been sent to me by other men over time, some of which I've taken myself, when I was back in the rear. So you might find those interesting as well. The story I'd like to tell you about today is one that it's about my fall from grace, if I could put it that way. It occurred toward the end of my tour. I still had about 2 months left in country, something like that. But I was getting rather short. I probably have my short timer calendar, Snoopy, starting to be pretty well filled in. Snoopy had 100 days, and I was starting to fill in Snoopy. I'll tell you about Snoopy in another video. So in any case, we got the word that the general was going to come and visit our compound. Well, that was a big deal. That would be something we hadn't had happen before. And see the general. It would be a real event. And what the major wanted was to have our company spick and span. He was going to make us a showcase of how a compound could look in Vietnam. So yeah, we were all set out on work parties all week long. They gave us sandbags, and we were supposed to fill in the ruts in the road, so that if the general came in by jeep or truck, he wouldn't be bounced around by the ruts in the road. It'd be a nice sandy, flat area. So we spent quite a bit of time filling in those holes, and we burned off all the grass around the perimeter using those kerosene burners that I told you about in another video. They scarfed up some paint, some green paint, and we painted everything, the hooches. Everything that wasn't painted, we painted green, because after all, we were in the green machine. That's what they call the Marine Corps, the green machine. And everything was green. And we spent a couple of days painting everything. and the compound did, it started to look a little bit better. Well, I would have preferred myself. I would have preferred we spent our time, putting up another bunker or something like that, or digging a deeper trench. But yeah, we looked pretty good. And at the end of the compound, where the road came into the compound, they erected a guard shed or guard post. One of those one-man guard sheds. It was painted white this time, and it had a light on it, and it guarded the entrance to our road. Well, not really, because the road itself was guarded by bunkers which had machine guns in them, interlocking lanes of fire and barbed wire. But the road did go through that area, and the guard shed was set out a little bit further along the road, maybe 100 yards beyond that. And our compound was at the bottom of a small hill, and the road sloped down toward our compound past the guard post. And so one evening I was assigned to man the guard post. As dusk started to fall, I got my gear out, my flak jacket and my helmet and my M16 and the radio that we would use. And so I trundled myself out to the guard shed there. And I noticed that the light was on. they had a light on over the guard shed, or extending out from the guard shed, and it illuminated the entire area, the road and the entire area around it, as well as anybody who's standing there in front of the guard post would be, just spotlighted. Well, I didn't like that idea. I mean, that might be okay back in the States, but where these guard posts were typically at the entrance to every military facility, But here we are in Vietnam. My God, you don't want to be exposed like that. A sniper could be up in the hill somewhere, and you'd be an ideal target. It wasn't like you were in Vietnam now. You're not in stateside. Well, I figured what I'd do is turn off the light. It might be a switch, but there was no switch. And when I went up to try to remove the bulb, there was a metal protective mask over the protective wire over the bulb, and it was screwed in up above. I didn't have any tools to get the thing removed, so I couldn't turn off the light. And as the darkness fell, if you're under a bright light, you can't see anything, much beyond that light. Your eyes can't be adjusted to the darkness and the light. Then. So I got my gear, and instead of being at the guard shed, I went, another maybe 50 feet beyond the glare of that light on the other side of the road, and that's where I set up. So the guard shed was here, and I was here, and the road went between us. Well, nobody was coming down the road anyway. I sat there for hours, or nobody came through. There wasn't much traffic in general along the main road, and nothing came down that side road that led to our compound until around 12 o'clock at night, when I saw a set of headlights go along the main road and then turn into our compound, the road leading into our compound. Now that road was about a quarter of a mile long, and I could see the whatever the vehicle, whatever it was, it had started down the road, but then after a few hundred feet, the lights were turned off, and the ignition was turned off, and now whatever it was coasting down toward me. I figured it was a Jeep, but I couldn't be sure, and I had no idea who was in the Jeep. If it was a VC. Turning off your lights like that and just coasting on down was really suspicious to me. And I got myself ready. I got my M16, and I was prepared to use it if I had to. Well, when it got close enough, when this vehicle got close enough, I yelled out, "Halt! Halt to be recognized! Halt!" I said it at least twice or three times, but the Jeep kept on coming down toward me. Didn't stop at all. It was only now about 100 feet from me, and I yelled out again, "Halt!" And at that, it kept on going. I fired a round off, and it hit the ground in front of the Jeep, which immediately slammed on its brakes, and a voice yelled out, "Stop! Don't fire!" I stopped. Went over to the Jeep, which now was more or less in the light, and I went over and I saw that it was the captain was sitting there in the seat. And Jonesy, my friend from the motor pool, was driving. And I went up to Jonesy and I said, "What the hell are you trying to do? Get yourself killed?" And Jonesy pointed to the captain and said, "He told me to keep going." I said, "Keep going." I said, "I nearly shot you. I shot both of you." Well, the captain stood up and put his hands on the windshield, and I could tell that he was 3 sheets to the wind. And he looked at me blearily, and he looked down at Jonesy, and he lost his balance, and he flopped back into the seat. And Jonesy turned on the ignition and went down the road. Well, at the first shot, that shot, everybody had piled out of their hooches and everything, loaded for bear. They were all had their flak jackets on, and they had their M16s, and they were all lined up and crowded along the road there, finding out what the heck's going on. Well, the Jeep went through the passage and continued on down toward the officers' area, and then the officers on hutch. And about 10 minutes later, I get a radio call from the communications guy, communications center there. He says, Fleming, the first sergeant, the top sergeant wants you to come over and the sergeant wants you to come over and speak to him right now. You're relieved. They're going to send somebody else out, and he told me to tell you to get your story straight because you're in deep shit. Well, get my story straight. I didn't have any story to get straight. All I knew was what happened. So my replacement came out to the guard shed, and I got my gear together, and I went down to see the sergeant, the top sergeant. And he's sitting there behind his desk, a great big guy. And he looks at me, and he goes, "What are you trying to do? Kill somebody? You trying to shoot the captain?" I said, "No, I'm not trying to. I wasn't trying to shoot anybody. I was on guard duty. I explained to him what happened. He said, well, then you deserted your post, didn't you?" I said, "No, I didn't desert my post. I mean, I positioned myself so that I could better protect the road. I didn't desert my post. That was." Those words could land you in Leavenworth in a time of war in a military area, deserting your post. No, I didn't desert my post. So he says, I said, "Listen," I said, the captain was drunk. I could smell the liquor on his breath. He couldn't even stand up straight. You find out from Jonesy what happened. He said, "I already spoke to him." He goes, "And you better not say, son, that one of our officers was drunk. You know what's good for you." I said, "Well, he was drunk." He goes, "You think you're in trouble now? You say something like that, and you're really going to be in the deep shit." Well, I didn't know what to say. So the next morning, before anything happened, the sergeant, our sergeant comes over who had the work orders for the day, and he assigned me to every single crummy job there could be, cleaning out the latrines, picking up the garbage all day long, one after another. And I knew that was punishment for whatever I did. And it was so unjust. I mean, I have to say it even now. It soured me against the Marine Corps. So that morning I went over to the motor pool, and I was pissed. I wanted to find out what happened, and I saw Jonesy there. And I said to him, "What in the world was that all about?" And he said, "Yeah, I picked up the captain at the bar down there in Da Nang. I drove him back, and when we got to the top of the hill there, he told me to see if we could surprise you and see if he could catch you sleeping on guard duty. And so he told me to turn off the lights and just coast down there quiet and see if we could get you, surprise you." And I said, "You damn near got yourselves killed, both of you. What a stupid thing to do." And he goes to me, "Yeah, guess it was. Yeah, guess it was." Well, up to that point, I had been one squared away Marine. I thought I had done my job. I was proud of my capabilities in the bush. Um, I didn't think I deserved to be treated in that way. And sure enough, every single time that if there was an inspection or something like that, the captain would find something wrong with my boots, or my rifle wasn't clean, or my hair wasn't short enough, or whatever, and I'd end up on another work party. It just got to the point where I was glad to go out in the bush and get away from that bastard. I mean, even our lieutenant, I know, got tired of seeing me written up time and time again. He knew I was just as squared away as anybody in the company, and yet there wasn't anything he could do about it. And this guy kept on picking at me, every time he saw me. So I talked to my other, my friends about it, and I kept on bitterly complaining, this isn't fair, And every single one of them said the same thing to me. You think life's fair, Fleming? After being in Nam for 13 months, 12 months, you think that life is still fair? Well, it's not. And truer words are never spoken. Life isn't fair. But that's the story of my fall from grace. And I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to my channel. I look forward to talking with you again.